Hello, everyone. I'm Robyn Grable, the founder of Talents Ascend and the Ascend Collective, and your host for Ascending Beyond Barriers. Welcome. Ascending Beyond Barriers is an inspiring podcast dedicated to showcasing the remarkable journeys of small business founders who have faced and overcome significant challenges on their path to success. Each episode delves into the personal stories of entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, highlighting their unique experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Excited to welcome Andrew Arbogast. He's a U.S. Army veteran, former Apache helicopter pilot, and the founder of Arbo's Cheese Dip, which is great, by the way. I'll just put a plug in there for a second. After returning from combat, Andrew discovered how comfort food could bring people together and launched Arbogast Foods to share that connection nationwide. Today, he's not only delivering bold, high-quality dips across the country, but also sparking real conversations around leadership, resilience, and purpose. A proud supporter of veteran nonprofits like MVP, Warriors Wingman, and IVMF, Andrew continues to lead with heart and mission. Andrew, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on. I got the pleasure of having some Arbo's cheese dip, 3 years ago now, right?
Oh, yes. It's crazy that it's been that long.
Yeah. Time just, it's great. Yeah. But yes, so tasty. So tell us, I know a lot of the story just from having that experience of being at what was then Bunker Labs and the pitch competition then. So tell us how you got started in this and what it's about. I know it's a family thing, so tell us more about it.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Robyn. Good to see you again. And it's crazy because you said you've tried it before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. What chapter am I in of this story? And it's really changed a lot, and I have changed a lot from when I started it. And how I told the story is, originally, I love food. I wanted to be a chef one day, so I figured this was a way for me to still have that food experience, but I think there was so much more rooted in this that I've only began to learn more about myself and the why behind it. And one that sticks out the most to me is that, when I was deployed in 2014, Afghanistan, I was a commander at that time, and I had 40 troops and about 13 helicopters. And it's like, if it could go wrong, it did. And I felt like, the one job I had was morale, right? I can lead and give orders and everything, but I cannot control morale. Or could I? Maybe a little bit, right? So for me, morale has always been food. And so my wife and my parents, everyone was just shipping me like these specialty cheeses and meats because that's what I asked for. I'm like, I want the fine, delicious stuff because the food here is awful. And I spread it out, right? So it's like we would break bread before mission, and I'd always have cheeses and seasonings and summer sausages and stuff like that. And so I think that really is where this all started. I love bringing people together, and I love doing it through food. And so I never would have imagined in a million years in 2014 that I would start this business. But man, there's so many things about it. It's like, it's my dad's recipe. Yeah. And I just wanted to show or demonstrate to my family, my children, that I was capable of doing this, and hopefully leave a legacy of, if you're not satisfied in life, like, do something about it, right? And turn any of the negative experiences or energy you have from your life into something positive, because there is more energy there than there is taking the other turn. So that's where it all came about. Dad's recipe, figured out how to get it into a tub on the store shelf, distribution, and now we're in retail across about 10, 11 states.
Congratulations. That's amazing. And not an easy road.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Tell us what's been the worst part about that process.
Oh, yeah. Every year I'm like, this was the worst year ever. Right? Right. It's like, I don't want to say that and discourage anyone, but it's like your problems are real, but they get bigger and bigger and more stressful. And what I thought was the end of my business back in 2022, I can laugh at now.
Nice.
I can't laugh yet about 2024. That wasn't funny at all. um,
I'm with
but
you.
I think one of the biggest wake up calls for me was that I lost a lot of confidence. I started
Mm,
out with a very strong attitude and resilient approach to everything. It's like everything was going well. Yeah, I'd have some hiccups here and there with,
right.
spoilage or shelf life or distribution or just product not selling. And that felt like
Mm,
the end of the world at that time. But I grew
sure.
through those things. I think my biggest lesson learned was that when I eventually grew out of a small co-packer, and that's a contract packer, someone you give your recipe to and they will make it to order, that gives you mass production capability. I outgrew a small one and it got into a very large one that
Mm,
when I did that, I said, so which stores, how many stores can I get into? They're like, you get into all of them. We've got the capacity to manufacture for basically an endless manufacturing capacity. So I hit the ground running and I'm like, I'm going to get into every single big name retail that there is out there. And I'm going to do it so fast. And everyone's telling me that I can't do it or I shouldn't do it. Not can't, but shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? They want it. What could go wrong? And so I managed to get into 5 like big name retailers within about a 90-day span. And
Wow.
you're not supposed to do that. And there's many reasons why. It's like, how are you going to build a relationship with that buyer
Yeah.
if you're just getting started and then you move on to the next one?
Mm,
And we just said yes. I basically was giving it away at a price I shouldn't have been because I wasn't
wow.
very good at margins. And then, after that 90-day launch period of getting into this retail, I lost 3 of those. And
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
within 6 months of getting on the shelf, I was done. Either discontinued, product not selling, and so I'm in a very valuable shelf space in the deli. If your product's not moving at the rate they want it to, you're out. And some
Yeah.
retailers are a bit more understanding that it takes time, but some are like,
Yeah.
if it's not working 90 days later, they're just not going to reorder it, and you're a one hit wonder if you were even a hit. But
Wow.
then, the worst one I experienced was that not only was I doing everything I could as a supplier to meet demand, we were shipping on time and full and everything else, but the orders that came through were so over what the movement was going to be.
Mm,
So I have a 120-day shelf life. Once it gets to a certain day, they can't sell it anymore.
sure.
So they don't pay you for it. And as a small business, when you lose 70 grand like that, I mean, I thought my life was over.
Yeah.
And not having the cash flow to recover from something like that,
Yeah.
I really hit rock bottom mentally, physically.
Mm.
I got very ill, and
Oh.
this was less than a year ago. And it's like I basically almost quit. But I said a prayer and I was like, listen, I'll do whatever I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what to do anymore. And then
Wow.
a week later, this major food investor comes in and says, don't worry about any of that debt. We'll figure that out. You need to be headstrong. You're going to keep 51% of your company. We'll take care of the rest. Go sell Arbos.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, that was my long-winded response. I'm sorry, Robyn.
No, that was perfect. I mean, this really what this podcast is all about. It's about telling those stories of people ascending beyond barriers, and that was a huge barrier that you just ascended over. So, wow. And so I guess and I think there's a couple of good things in there that people they just take for granted that hey, you get into a grocery store and all it's going to be all rainbows and sunshine now, and that's not the case. And getting there is hard, but staying there is even harder because of just the things that you talked about. Wow.
And people told me that. I was told getting on the shelf is easy, staying on the shelf is the hard part. And I laughed
Okay.
at it. I was like,
Yeah, really?
no, getting on the shelf is so hard. But I
Yeah.
hadn't gone through that other side.
Right.
And then I did, and I'm like, you know, Oh gosh, now it does make sense.
So I mean, and I think about it too. I mean, we've gone through a couple of really, really bad years as well. In fact, 2022 kind of started that downhill. We had a situation and it truly almost took us under. And I'm so grateful that we're still here and doing what we do. And it's important, but it's also important to understand what happened. So you have this investor, obviously that probably wasn't an overnight thing, although the relationship to kind of say, I'm going to help you was overnight. But what led up to that? Like how did you find that person and how did that come about?
You're right. It wasn't something that just popped out of nowhere. This is a company that I've been talking to for a long time about collaborating on different things. And we could just never figure timing was always an issue. And honestly, ball was in my court. I was overconfident thinking I can manage all of this myself. I'm still the only employee technically, but I used to brag about that. Now,
Right.
When I got through that, I was like, I wish I would have figured out how to hire people because it's a lot to take on. And you only have so much time in the day. And I was basically half good at, or half worse at doing all the things myself.
Yeah.
And so I had this relationship for 3 years, but I also wanted, I wanted to bid this out a little bit too before it got to that point. And I started talking to multiple investors, and when I was told no, I got so upset. And I mean, I took it personally, when people are like, it's like, I'm capable of doing this. I just need the help. But when they, weren't interested anymore, that's where I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But then when I found this one that believed in me and the others didn't, it was meant to be. Absolutely. I had to wait a little bit longer, but once we figured that out, it was like the world just changed for me. And we have been running full speed, and we got so much opportunities for 2025. And so I'll get over it, but I'm still a little bit, not jaded, but I have to look forward. That's it.
Yeah. Well, they say though that as long as you learn something from that experience. So, I would ask you, like, what did you learn from trying to do it all on your own and from that experience of the loss that almost took you under? What do you bring? What of that do you bring to the investor and say, I don't want this to happen again? So how do we keep that from happening?
Quit saying yes to every single opportunity that comes your way.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but
no.
About 3 months ago, I had an amazing, well-known retailer that reached out, and it was one of those where they reached out to me, and it really feels good when you're not like banging on the door begging. But They reached out and loved the product. They tried it, and then they wanted me to sell it to them at a cost where before I even shipped it, I was in the red.
Oh, good grief.
But before I would have
said yes.
I would have said yes, and I would have figured it out, or I wouldn't have, and ended up in the same position that I got myself into. So I made that mistake, but then I learned, like, you know what? You're asking for something. I get that it's a negotiation, but let's not waste each other's time. I'm going to tell you what I need to sell it to you for based on the distributor that you want me to use and shipping it to that location. It's going to cost this, and I'm also going to have to build in some extra margin because I know you're going to bill me back for late shipping or all these other things. And they're like, well, that's just that's not going to work out for us. I'm like, great, we weren't meant to be yet. So that's the best part of this.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do that too at Talents Ascend. We know the kind of employers that we really can't help, or we wouldn't be successful in helping them find talent. But it is hard to say no. And that's a hard lesson we've learned too. I'm like, oh, we'll take it on and we'll just make it work. And it never comes out right. It just never does. And then I feel bad from an integrity perspective because I'm like, I should have never taken their money in the first place. And it never works out. So thank you for sharing that story and saying that, because it doesn't now. And I watch a lot of Shark Tank. I meet a lot of veterans from Shark Tank. We had a couple on the podcast, but they always say, don't go into retail. don't do it, because you have to give away so much of your margin, so much of the money that you're able to make. Do you also have a direct to consumer option, or is everything that you do through retail?
I do have a direct to consumer option, and I'll get to that in a second. That retailer piece of like razor thin margins, it
Yeah.
is a slow game. I thought it was a fast game. I'm like volume,
Okay.
volume, volume as quickly as I can, but it is a very slow game.
Okay.
And then as far as the B2C for e-commerce, the challenge I have, and I haven't figured out how to crack this one or if it's even possible, but um, if someone wants to order our product online, it's refrigerated, right? So it's got to stay
Mm,
cold. So it's got to be cold packed and it's got to be
yeah.
overnighted. And
Sure.
the product itself is $6. So it's like you're going to pay $35 if you wanted to just order one tub.
Right.
Um, and so it's available. It's out there. It's a third party that does it,
Okay.
and really, it's more. I use it a lot when I need to ship samples to someone. I can just do
Sure.
it from my phone instead of going home and adding
Nice.
that to the list of things.
Wow. Okay. So you started out with one. I know you've got multiple kind of flavors. Tell us about
Yeah.
all the products that you have and what's on the horizon. Do you have anything new coming out?
Oh, awesome question. So the original, the yellow, was my dad's recipe, and that was the only one I had in mind until someone along the way said, "Hey, if you want to get into retail, you got to have at least three SKUs."
Okay.
So I'm like, "All right, well, I'll just crank the heat up on this one. That covers two." But now I need a queso blanco because it's like you have a white cheese dip and a yellow cheese dip.
Right.
Different regions or people prefer different flavors, and so
Sure.
it's been about a year working on that. So now we've got the three flavors. I can't even manage three. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I say that tongue in cheek. It's hard to
Come on,
manage.
Andrew. We got to help you hire somebody.
I know. I'd love to do like new and seasonal flavors, but there's just a lot of risk for doing that. And it's like,
Yes.
I can't just go out and buy 1,000 containers and label them for this seasonal product and be done with it. I got
Right.
to buy 25,000. And what happens if it doesn't work? And now I'm
Yeah.
left over with all this inventory that I can't do anything with. So I just went so fast that I kind of skipped like not the mom and pop phase, but really like the homemade or small batch, if you will,
Yeah.
and to where that I can really do that managing risk with it.
Yeah.
But as far as things on the horizon, we have opened up to food service and
Oh.
basically,
Okay.
stated that we are capable of manufacturing in 5-pound bags, and those can be used on restaurant menus. It doesn't even have to be branded by us, but it's just another revenue stream.
Yeah.
And we are adding manufacturing in California and
Okay.
Wisconsin. So
Nice.
now we're really able to capture like every state that,
Okay.
and it would allow us to ship to those regions rather than shipping it all out of Memphis. So that's really the biggest development we have, and that's going to help us get into more stores where we otherwise wouldn't even try.
Yeah. Any aspirations to sell to the military? I mean, guys overseas need cheese dip. It's like the best
Oh
thing.
my gosh! If you, I should have had my original business plan ready to pull up here. It's very comical. Uh,
Really?
However, one thing for sure in there still rings true, and it says I started this business obviously because it means it's near and dear to my heart
Yeah.
the recipe. But my goal is to get this in the hands of our veterans and military. Like,
Yep.
what other driver
Right.
could there be for me? And it has been the biggest hurdle.
Really?
Oh, I mean, I got into Publix within a matter of a month, but I'm still going on like 4 years trying to get into the commissary. Um,
Wow.
and I'm today I had a phone call and I'm like, okay, I'm really close at this point, but it's been a lot of no's. And really just because I didn't understand how the makeup of how they source and
Okay.
regionals and distribution and all those other things. So it was a learning curve for me, but I also believe that things happen for a reason. And
Yes.
so maybe the timing wasn't right. And now it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, that having been a mission driven thought, if you weren't ready for it and you did it and it didn't work out, you would be so much more devastated and maybe never get another chance at that. But now, because you've waited until you're, at the point where you're more ready, it will work out and it'll be
Yeah.
great. I'm still amazed that your parents could ship you cheese and meat over to Afghanistan and it was still edible by the time you got there.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. Honestly, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but we were going to
You
eat
ate
it.
it anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was still
I mean,
better than, yeah.
that food that was served on the airfield that is intended for prisoner or military. It's like, well, if you can eat that and survive, then what's wrong with some week old cheese?
My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I know you're very, we mentioned in your intro MVP and IVMF. Tell us about some of your work with those nonprofits and what drives you to support them.
Oh man, I am like it's one of those things where it's like I wish someone was here to lead this company so that I could just go and support the nonprofits. It really is a motivator for me. I wish I had all the money in the world just to give them.
Right.
But, one day, hopefully, it's not going to be an issue. But merging vets and players is so very near and dear to me. The founder, Nate Boyer, is an incredible human being, first of all. And I was drawn to him when I met him at Walmart Open Call. Former Seahawk, NFL player, former Texas Longhorn, Special Forces, actor. I'm like, dude, you're such an overachiever. Relax.
Right.
Calm down a little bit. But the guy is as good as gold and will do anything for anyone. And this nonprofit that him and Jay Glazer started is about the transitioning veteran and professional athlete losing the uniform and the jersey, trying to figure out their identity, bringing them together through physical fitness. So they've got gyms all over the U.S. and it's just an awesome cause. And then obviously IVMF, formerly Bunker Labs, like that is the reason I am where I am today.
Sure.
And so always that mission's going to be top of mind. And my most recent favorite is I love all these veteran nonprofits, but is Warriors Wingman. And
yeah, tell me about that. I hadn't heard of that one.
So if I can show you this little guy real quick.
Oh.
That's Hudson.
Aww.
And he is a British lab that was trained, like fully trained to be a duck dog and a companion for veterans, to get us outdoors and live life. And, it's like my buddy. And they do this for free and they gift them to veterans that have been in combat. And it's just an amazing group of people that, it's like they want no recognition. This is their way of life. So,
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Goodness. Well, that's awesome. It warms my heart. That's amazing. I also know Lisa Parmiter, from she has her own company and her and her husband, Brent, and just that she's involved with MVP. So I know that's a really great organization.
Lisa's gold as well. It's such a great group of people.
It's wonderful. I met her and Brent at Veteran Edge. Probably in 2019 or 2020, right, the last one we had before COVID, and so awesome.
Oh yeah!
Wow. So, well, we're almost out of time. Tell us, what would be your advice for somebody who's looking to get into the food? I know we've talked about a lot of lessons and dummy tax that you've paid, but obviously people want to be in this industry and should be in this industry. What would you tell them? The very most important thing they should think about before they get started?
The biggest, I would say, obstacle when I started was the basic things. And that is, some people may look at a product and be like, well, I don't even know how to get a barcode or create an ingredient declaration. That stuff is so easy. I wish ChatGPT was around back then because I would have probably moved so much faster, but maybe it's a good one. And so getting over that initial hurdle, but you have to really believe in it, whatever it is. It can't just be it's not a get rich quick scheme. I thought it was. I really thought I was going to sell this thing to Kraft in like 2 years, right? I mean, very naive, but I never lost faith or belief in myself and the product. So if that genuine drive isn't there, it's going to be really hard. Now, even if it is there, it's still going to be
hard.
really hard. but you're going to be more resilient and in the game. And what I would say too is I believe at the time I was so eager to do this and take over the world that I left my job a bit too early.
Oh,
I like to say I don't, it's like, well, I don't like to say I have regrets, but I'd be lying if I said I wish I would have stuck this out and stuck out my job and pulled in, because it's hard. Like, when
yeah.
you're trying to provide for your family, my wife works, thank God, and is able to cover the health care and,
Mm,
basically provide for the family in that sense. I also provide, but there were some tough months last
yeah.
year where I couldn't pay myself for half a year. And that puts a lot of strain. So like money is really one of the biggest things. It's like, if you don't have that rainy day fund or that cash flow, pick up some extra jobs or something. Uh,
Something. Yeah.
that's my advice.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And we have very similar trajectories. I mean, I think back when I left my corporate job at ADP, but I was so disheartened that on that side of corporate America too. And I knew I wanted to work with veterans. And I look back now and I think, oh, I should have just stayed. I had a bonus coming and I had a 6-figure salary coming in. I worked from home. I could have done both, but my heart wasn't in that anymore. I really wanted to do this full time. And I also thought, hey, I'm going to create this AI. It's going to, candidates are going to create their profile. Employers are going to come in and create job profiles. It's going to work. I'm going to make money while I sleep.
Right. That's right. There you go. Yeah.
Couldn't be farther from the truth of the actual reality of building a small business. So
It takes that for you to kickstart yourself, I think.
it does.
So,
But you're right. You have to keep that, the mission and the purpose. And I always go back to why we do what we do and why I want this to succeed. So, wow. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. We're out of time. Unfortunately, I could just talk the rest of the day with you, but congratulations on sticking with it, because it is amazing. So just keep believing in yourself and just keep, pushing forward, because you're going to get there.
Thank you so much, Robyn. It was such an honor to be on and talk to you and catch up and everything, and love being able to do this. So thank you.
Absolutely.